Okay, so it came up here to right around 80, 85 Celsius. I let it warm up a lot. We are ready to stop the data log. So we can see here PC log is active. We need to turn that off. If I go here and I hit my F8 button, that's going to stop that data log. Now we can see it opens up and populates the data log immediately into my logging window here. Let's start to dissect this and take a look. I noticed that the short-term fuel trim was adding 25%, which is the most it can add, when it was firing off probably about 5-10 seconds into actually running. It started to add a lot of fuel, and then it started to dissipate as we got up to about 50-60 Celsius. That means we need some work on our post-start, potentially on the post-start tables, and potentially on the warm-up enrichment tables. Now the cranking was actually really good. It took a few cranks for it to fire off, but it built fuel pressure, I'm assuming, relatively quick. It did take probably maybe 5-6 cranks for it to fire, but again, mechanical pump, it does take some time for it to build the pressure. If we start to take a look here, we can look in our data log. We can look at the RPM of where it actually fired off at. So if I go here and I use my up arrow, I can zoom in right where we actually fired the engine off. And this is in the first window called Tune. Now in this window, I have some couple parameters pulled up on my particular channels list. This is probably going to look a little bit different than your screen. You can add what I have here so you can follow along on your car. I have engine speed, lambda target, lambda. We have manifold pressure, we have ignition angle, short-term fuel trim, the ignition angle here again. Looks like we have ignition angle twice, so we have to take that out, I guess, if we don't want to use that. Do have two different parameters here twice. And then we have exhaust manifold pressure that's looking at our EMAP sensor. Down below here, we have our fuel pressure differential, and then fuel pressure correction, shows what it's correcting by. What we could do in this lower lane here is also go in and add actual fuel pressure. So we have fuel pressure differential and then fuel pressure. Let's actually add just fuel pressure itself. So we'll actually go up here and do add, type in fuel pressure, and we're going to add fuel pressure, and we're looking for fuel pressure. Let's go up a little bit here. Fuel pressure 1. We actually want to see the raw fuel pressure, what that was building. And let's go and add that in a different color here. Let's do something bright like this fuchsia. And scaled axes here, we'll do custom, and we'll do 0 to 100. That'll be fine. Click OK. And now we take a look here, we can see what that fuel pressure was doing. So let's focus in even tighter just so we can see. This is going to be specifically looking at and talking about the cranking fuel and that pre-crank fuel that we were looking and talking about before. So looking at this, we can see that the engine speed, we can see that we're cranking here. And it looks like we crank from, and looking at our timestamp, maybe about 48.5 seconds in or so, maybe 49 seconds. And then we can see we're cranking. The cranking speed is about 200 RPM. And then right about here, it starts to pick up RPM and starts to fire off, or want to try to fire off. Now what's to note about this, we need to see what the actual fuel pressure is doing. And let's go here. Let's zoom back out again. It looks like I zoomed in a little bit too much. Let's do the reset zoom, and let's try this one more time. A keystroke to key that zoomed me in too much. We want to go in and zoom this right in this startup period here so we can talk about this cranking injection. So we can see here the fuel pressure starts to pick up during the point where we're actually cranking. So that mechanical pump's spinning, it's starting to generate the fuel pressure, and we can see here it's showing about 250 kPa worth of fuel pressure. Right about here it's still pretty low, 220 kPa. It's not till we get to right around this range here where the fuel pressure starts to pick up a little bit, the engine speed starts to pick up, and in here, this transitional area here, it's about 2-3 seconds where it idles kind of low. It is starting to run and fire off. It's 600 RPM. We can see here that's 800 RPM. And then it finally kicks and it starts to run at 1200 RPM. And this point, this is where the fuel pressure really starts to pick up, right about this point here. So it starts to crank, and then once it starts to pick up RPM, spinning that pump a little bit quicker, we see the pressure.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.